Good afternoon and welcome to the big show. It is the big show we do every single day, well, most days during the week, where we talk about all things Pittsburgh sports, all things Steelers related, Pirates related, Penguins related, whatever comes down the pike, we try and basically hit it and get it done. And that's what we do every single day. So thank you for joining in. And thank you for always listening and reading the Post-Gazette. Well, we had news, sort of, kind of, in the Aaron Rodgers story. And I don't know if we necessarily had news, but we did have Art Rooney speaking about it, and he basically said, "Well, I think that it's not going to be much longer for when it comes to the Aaron Rodgers coming here and signing with the Steelers. So don't worry about it. Don't wait too much longer because it's going to happen." That's what Art Rooney says, which tells me that Art Rooney is a lot less really bent out of shape about all this than the fans are. And again, I think it really is going to be a situation of where, he's going to sign. He's taking his time. Next week is OTAs. And so, Adam Schefter had a report that basically said, oh, well, we want to say that it's going to happen. It's going to happen next week. We've heard for how often, for how long, it's going to happen. But I don't think that it is going to be important to get all that jammed up. And I also know this. Some people are getting really jammed up about the idea that, well, you know what? Aaron Rodgers might not get to OTAs. Ooh. Might not get to OTAs. I mean, come on, man. First of all, who cares? You'd think he'd want to be at OTAs. You'd think he'd want to be there for his teammates. But it's one of those things where I think OTAs, if you're a 41-year-old who's been in the league for 20 years, I just don't think it's all that significant. And so I just feel like it's like people get caught up in some of this stuff because there's no games being played. I had this conversation with somebody today. There's no games being played right now. So people are really, really like in many ways, they're just basically sitting here trying to pick apart every little thing for information. But, it's just like when guys hold out for training camp. At the end of the day, who cares? It's training camp. You want them to get in with a week or two left. But if they miss 4 weeks of training camp, it really doesn't matter, especially if you're a veteran. And I think that's the key. So I think it's important to note, next week is when OTAs start. So when Adam Schefter reports, well, we think it's going to happen next week, it's probably as good of a guess as there can be. I mean, if you're of the opinion that he's going to come, yeah, next week would probably be a time when you think about it, would be a time when he would come in. And I think that's really the key. And I think the other thing is this, Michael here, he actually asked a legitimate question. Would there be a time where a tipping point becomes a divisive wedge between Aaron and the entire locker room because this is drawn out so long? Probably not. Probably not. maybe right now guys are frustrated, but what are they doing? Nobody's working out. Nobody's practicing. Nobody's playing. They're not doing anything. Most of the guys aren't even in town right now. If he misses a week or two of OTAs, then I could see maybe it becomes an issue because guys start to get antsy because they're answering questions every day about him. But to me, he shows up and his first practice, he throws a bunch of dimes and looks healthy and he fits in and guys are happy with him. Man, I tell you what, all of a sudden everything else gets forgotten quickly. So funny how that works, isn't it? It's always funny how that works. And so I feel like when we talk about it, Aaron Rodgers, if you want to say, hey, Aaron Rodgers is coming in next week, that's as good of a guess as there is out there. That really is. It's as good of a guess as there is out there. And so to me, I look at it and I say, basically, we can do and say whatever you want to say, but he'll come when he's ready to come. And, he was on with Joe Rogan. And of course, now, people are they're upset because I guess they talked about the vaccine again or some nonsense, right? But he said, basically that I have a couple of people in my inner circle who are really battling some difficult stuff. And that's kind of why he's been taking his time on all this stuff. He's got stuff in his personal life. He's trying to get out of the way. He's trying to help some people get through some stuff in his life, right? And I think that's what it is, especially, true. If he comes here and he says, hey, guys, I really, really want to be here. I'm all in. I'm here to win and try and win a championship with you guys. But over the last 3 months, I've had to take care of people. He says, I have a lot of things that are taking away my attention. That's where I've been focusing most of my attention on. They're battling difficult stuff, and I've sort of been laying in the weeds about it. That's what he said. So, to me, what teammate would say, what teammate would say, no, too bad, should have been here. Should have been here in the offseason when nobody else is here. Should have signed. His whole thing, too, is I'm signing because, or I'm waiting because I want to be 100% focused all in on football, and I can't be that right now. And that's the good thing. Steelers have a lot of time. A lot of time. I mean, we're still, 3 months away from training camp. Just remember that. We're still 3 months away from training camp, essentially. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Ian O'Connor, who wrote a book, wrote his book, his biographer, he says he thinks he'll be in by June 10th, which is the, minicamp. So next week is OTAs. If he misses OTAs, who cares? They're not even mandatory. Minicamp is mandatory. So, again, he basically says, hey, I'm open to a lot of things, but I have to have my mind right. He's like, my focus is on my personal life. There's conversations that we're having and all that other good stuff. But right now, I'm focused on my personal life. And I would ask you, okay, it's one of those things where if you were his teammate, would you have a problem with that? Would you have a problem with a guy telling you he's got stuff going on in his personal life? Maybe one thing if he was a rookie, right? Be one thing if he was a rookie. He's not. He's been playing for 20 years. He's not a rookie anymore. So for him to, be here or not be here, I don't know that it's all that significant. I really don't. I just feel like people, want to make a decision that something is big when it really isn't all that big. He'll get here when it's time to get here. Honestly, he'll get here when it's time to get here. Until then, I just think that I don't think it's one of those things where, I really believe in so many ways. I really, really believe that it is, gonna play out the way it's supposed to play out. And once it's done, he'll come in. If he's good, nobody's going to care that he took 3 months to sign. If he's bad, we're going to talk about it, ad nauseum. But if he's good and the Steelers are winning, guess what? Honestly, what's going to happen? If he's good, Steelers are winning, nobody's going to care about all this stuff. I always say this, and people don't believe me, and then I point out a lot of different examples of it. But if you win, okay? If you win, nobody cares about the other stuff. Nobody. If you lose, it's all they talk about. If you lose, it's all they want to talk about. Because if you lose, then all of a sudden they don't have the season to talk about because the season is essentially over, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. So now we have to find a whole lot of different things to talk about. Well, in the off season, there's no games for people to talk about. And so all of these things become magnified. Period. And I think that's where we're at right now with this. All of these things are magnified to the point where, you know what? We're going to talk about, every little thing. And it's funny. I wrote a story about Rodgers yesterday or the day before. I don't know. All these days run together. But the story was essentially very simple. The Steelers are a better team with Rodgers than they are without Rodgers. And of course, I got emails and people were upset about it. But one person was going on and on about how he doesn't. He's sort of a diva and he doesn't fit the Steelers. The Steelers, the fabric of the Steelers, essentially the Steelers way. That he wouldn't be a good guy in the locker room or whatever. I'll say it again. There has never been a bigger diva, a bigger prima donna, a more aloof and arrogant guy in the Steelers locker room than Ben Roethlisberger, who was there for almost 20 years. And he seemed to be okay. The Steelers fabric seemed to be okay. Ben is very, very simple. All about Ben. And again, I like Ben. I think he was a great quarterback. I'm not one of these guys, there's some media guys that don't like him because he was, kind of a jerk to the media at times. I don't care about that stuff. As a player, he was fantastic. As a player, it's hard for me to say he's the best quarterback in Steelers history when there was another guy that had twice as many Super Bowls. But I think he's right there. If Bradshaw's 1, Ben's 1A, and Ben is probably a top 20 all-time quarterback in the NFL. But let's not kid ourselves. He wasn't a great teammate. A lot of teammates in that locker room weren't big fans. A lot of his teammates weren't big fans of him. He was aloof. At times he had rules for himself. Look at the way he still, to this day, treats Mason Rudolph as absurd. He's petty. He's everything that you are complaining about Aaron Rodgers and then some. So we need to stop this nonsense. That somehow Aaron Rodgers doesn't fit in. Aaron Rodgers doesn't fit in. Justin says he has been in the top 10. I just did this, maybe like 2 weeks ago I wrote a column because you remember when Terrell Suggs said that he thought Ben Roethlisberger was underrated. So I went through this list just for the hell of it, right? Went to the hell of it, just for the hell of it. Okay, here we go. I'm glad. See, this list has Joe Namath at 29, which I'm glad because I think there's a lot of guys that, that a lot of times because of the whole Broadway Joe stuff and the guarantee that he gets very overrated. In fact, I don't even know that he's a Hall of Famer. I know you shouldn't say that around here. So this list has, and we'll go guys that I would agree are better than Ben. Let's go with the easy ones. Brady 1, Montana 2, Peyton Manning 3, Marino 4, Unitas 5, Elway 6, Mahomes already 7. Wow. Rodgers 8, Favre 9, Drew Brees 10. Steve Young, I think, is too low. He's 11th. I think he should be higher. Otto Graham, I mean, I guess the guy did win, 10 championships or whatever he did, but let's see, he was 9, played for a title in each of his 10 seasons, right? I'm sorry, he was in the championship game 10 times and won 7 of them. So, yeah, okay, cool. But so they have Bradshaw 13, Staubach 14, Fran Tarkington 15, Bart Starr, Aikman 16 and 17, and then Ben 18. So I look at that list ahead of Ben. Let's go through that list ahead of Ben. I think that Ben was probably better than Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman was probably a more accurate passer, but he couldn't move like Ben. I don't know that he really had the arm that Ben had. He also had the luxury of playing with, ridiculous a bunch of all-star, Hall of Fame type players on offense. I mean, most of Ben's guys were on defense. He did have some guys. He's had good receivers, Hines Ward, Plex, guys like Heath Miller. He's had good players. I might put Ben ahead of Troy Aikman. Bart Starr, to me, I don't know. I mean, if you want to tell me that he was a winner in that era of football, maybe. I don't know. I'd say Fran Tarkenton probably was better than Ben. I mean, Fran Tarkenton was probably Ben before that. Staubach's better. Bradshaw's better. Everybody above that. Otto Graham, I can't speak to. The one guy that I think is always interesting to me is Drew Brees. I mean, he was a stat compiler, and he was obviously a great player. But was he the 9th best quarterback of all time? I mean, that seems to me like you're basically just rewarding stat guy. You know what I mean? And I just don't know if he's there. I just don't know if he's that guy. Maybe he is. Maybe I'm being too hard on Drew Brees. He was obviously an incredibly accurate passer. He had that it factor. He did win a Super Bowl. But I'm just saying, Ben is ranked on this list as 18. Looking at this list, I think he probably could be about 15th, but that's probably about as high as he can be. 15th, maybe. And I don't even know if that's the case. You know what I mean? I don't even know if that's the case from the standpoint of, Roger Staubach. Not Roger Staubach. Troy Aikman, I don't know. He's got one more Super Bowl, but I think I'd take Ben over Aikman, to be honest. So in Otto Graham, not Otto Graham, who was the Bart Starr, I don't know where he fits. Again, Ben is 5th on this list. He's 18th on this list. Probably the highest that I would put Ben is about 15th. I think the other guys are clearly better than Ben, and that's okay. I mean, think about all the guys that have played quarterback in the NFL, and Ben is 15th. That ain't bad. So Armin says Starr is not a bad ranking because he had 5 titles, or four titles. somewhere he's in about, I don't know, 14th. Let's say he's somewhere between 14 and say 18. That's probably about right. And if you think about it, all the guys that have played in the NFL at quarterback, you're one of the best 15 or 20. You're elite of elite. It's interesting. Ben should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I think he will be. But here's what's going to be interesting, because you know how Hall of Fame voters are. Even though it's not baseball, okay? Even though it's not baseball, and the criteria is a little different, are people going to hold, the thing in Georgia, the thing in Las Vegas, the fact that he's, not really considered, he's not really well liked by some media guys? Is Ben going to have that held against him enough that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer? And you could say, well, that's not part of the criteria, and you'd be right. But let's not forget, T.O., right? T.O. Let's not forget him, because they held it against him. They weren't supposed to. They weren't supposed to, but I'll tell you, it's one of those things where they do. We know they do, because we've seen it before. We've seen it how many times in football even. So I think Ben will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He should be. But I will say this. I don't know that he necessarily will, just from the standpoint of some of these guys just can't get over themselves. And I think when you look at it that way, could be really interesting. For real. Could be really, really interesting. Like, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope these jerks the self-righteous jerks, I call them, the guys that have ballots, for things like Hall of Fames, and they kind of act like they're the arbiter of what's moral and what's not. I mean, to me, it's silly. So we'll see. But to answer the question, I said Ben is top 20 all time. Another guy said he thought he was maybe top 10. We could probably split it somewhere in the middle and say he's probably about a top, I don't know, top 15 to 18. That's generally where I would put him. And that ain't bad. It really ain't bad. So anyway, it's just going to be interesting to see now if the people that loved Ben, when Aaron Rodgers does come here, will they be able to say, basically say, basically will they be able to say, oh, goodness, you know what? Ben was the same exact way. Ben was the same exact way. So I'm going to give Ben a pass. Or I'm going to give Rodgers a pass, period. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see. And what's good is a lot of you seem to know what I'm talking about. A lot of you seem to know that when it comes to Ben. Great person, wasn't a great team. I'm sorry, great football player. Wasn't a great teammate. Might not be a great person either. Extremely petty person. But that's okay. Thing about it is, he's got his family, he's got his friends, he doesn't need anybody else. But I always wonder, like these guys that go through the NFL and they get out of the NFL and they don't seem to have like a circle around them of guys that they played with over the course of time. Ben's got a couple of the offensive linemen that seem to be in his circle, but the reality is, he's sort of somebody who lived his own way, did things his own way, and quite frankly, because of that, well, you know what? He rubbed people the wrong way. And if you remember this, what about when the Rooneys had to get to Ben and basically say, listen, you either tone this down, right, or we're going to trade you. My guess is they're probably not going to have to do that with Aaron Rodgers. So it's just one of those things where, I look at all the reasons why people don't like Aaron Rodgers, and I get it, but at the end of the day, if he's the best guy to take your quarterback or take your team to where they need to go, why wouldn't you want him? Why wouldn't you? Period. That's the way I look at it. It's just me. Again, I want the best players on my team. I do. Now, you know what? I'm gonna switch gears here for the last few minutes and talk a little bit about the Pirates for a minute, and then I want to talk about some of the developments with the college football. The Pirates, to me, I watched them play, and I just don't understand. I just don't understand how anybody associated with that organization could look at that organization and say to themselves, wow, you know what? We're on the right track. Because they're not. They're not on the right track. And I think that's, the key. Like, I'm watching some of the guys that are running into, the games. I had to, I had to look up the pitcher they have tonight, not because I really didn't know who he was, but kind of like, where did he come from again? Where are they bringing him from? Why is he pitching tonight? Oh, that's right. He's pitching tonight. You want to know why? Because they decided that Carl Mlodzinski is no good. So Mike Burrows is pitching tonight. He's starting for them, right? I actually had to do like a little digging here to remember who the hell he was. 25 years old, right? He really has no stats. He's appeared in one game, 3 innings pitched, 1 earned run. He's given up. So who knows? But reality is when I'm looking at him, I'm just like, he pitched 1 time last year. He's just sort of a guy that's in the organization for the last 2 years. I don't know. I'm just not really all that impressed by all these guys when there are other guys we know about that are down there that they don't seem to want to bring up their best players. Now, this guy's been good in Indianapolis, so maybe he'll be good here. Who knows? I'm just telling you, there's too many guys on this roster right now. You look at it and you say, who the hell is this guy? Former sports writer here who now works elsewhere, a couple years ago, 2 years ago, coined the phrase waiver dude to describe who's on the Pirates. And there seems to be a bunch of these waiver dudes, or guys that are just like, who are these guys? So you just got to hope that, some of them start to come through or something. I don't know what's going on with them, but I feel like that's important. It really is. It really is important. So anyway, it's going to be a day where, we watch the Pirates start a series with the Brewers. Hopefully it goes their way. Who knows? College football play. By the way, the game's always on at Archie's. Get down to Archie's. Archie's, home of 80 cent wings Monday through Thursday, home of the Paul Zeise grilled cheese sandwich. So get down to Archie's, and when you get down there, say hello to Archie for us. So college football playoff real quick. Listen, they're going to seed it next year, 1 through 12. Had they done it this year, I think it probably would have still come out with the two teams that ended up playing for the title still playing. It just would have been a different route. If they seeded it the right way last year, Penn State would have been the 4 seed, and they would have gotten a bye, but they would have had to play Notre Dame in their first game, so we still might be talking about big game James. I don't hate it, but I think if a committee is going to be in charge of it, you kind of know what's going to happen. And what's going to happen is it's going to be dominated by the Big Ten and SEC are going to get the buys, the top 4 seeds almost every single year. And I don't think that's good for anyone either. We'll have to see, but I don't know that that's going to be good for anybody either. At any rate, hopefully the next time you hear from me, there's a quarterback in place, and hopefully the Steelers can then get ready for OTAs and know that their roster is intact.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.